Okay, because in a dynamic that is that small and that isolated, class consciousness immediately picks up. It's like impossible to deal with that sort of thing. Which is why all of these structures inevitably fail. They're always bound to fail.
Prospera is building the future of human governance, privately run and for profit.
The people of the world do not like their governments. Welcome here.
Companies based in Prospera pay low taxes and can create their own regulatory frameworks. And that's why it's become a hub for experimental medical procedures not approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
I came to Honduras with the intention of editing and altering my genetics.
I've gotten in the habit of getting crazy medical treatments that are only available in Prospera.
I also recently got myself like an implant into my hand here. You can program several things into it, like opening a Tesla car.
This is the type of person we exist to attract, right? Someone who's trying to do good in the world. That is very hard to do because of regulatory.
Prospera has raised over $150 million in investments. And some of the names behind that funding are prominent U.S. billionaires and Trump backers. PayPal founder Peter Thiel, venture capitalist Martin Gleason, and OpenAI's Sam Altman. Crypto company Coinbase has also invested. But this so-called libertarian crypto utopia has generated major backlash. Many Hondurans see Prospera's ability to incorporate land and create its own laws as a threat to the country's sovereignty.
This is like an it's unfair for foreigners to come to Honduras and build and do whatever they want.
Even though previous Honduran leaders cleared the way for these private cities, the current one has impeded their development and is trying to fully dismantle them. In response, Prospera's mostly American investors are suing Honduras.
Sounds like that. Yeah, run by slaves. It would have to operate as a slave colony.
For, get this, almost $11 billion. That's nearly 2/3 of its national budget. How is it not exploitative for mostly American investors to come after such a poor country like Honduras for almost $11 billion?
They're not coming after a poor country. They're coming here to invest, to create jobs.
Since I visited, Prospera's legal future continues to hang in the balance. But here's the thing. What I learned about the fight brewing over this one private city in Honduras gives us a lot of insight into the future of private governance around the world and how local communities could be affected.
This is a very simple village, and you're up against this multi-million-dollar project.
It's not fair.
White colonizers did the exact same shit to apologize for the transatlantic trade slave, by the way. They're building housing, Assam. Why don't you like it? Yeah, this is abundance. This is abundance mindset, and you silly libtards don't. You silly leftists with your stupid leftist opinions don't understand. China and the Asian countries released a joint statement here it is. Joint statement of the Asian China GCC summit. China has also given visa-free travel to the GCC countries, Gulf countries. In the aftermath of this, here it is in Kuala Lumpur. The following is the full text of the joint statement of the summit of the Associations of Southeast Asian Nations and the Cooperation Council for the Arab States of the Gulf, GCC, and China released on Tuesday. They're recognizing close mutually beneficial economic collaboration, reaffirming desire to further promote GCC relationships. Blah, 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 blah. Where's the juicy stuff? Strengthen the World Trade Organization. Leaders expressed grave concerns over the developments in the Middle East. Condemn all attacks against civilians and call for a durable ceasefire for all concerned parties to ensure the most effective and efficient access to humanitarian aid and release the hostages. Call on all parties to the conflict to protect civilians for frankly targeting them and abide by international law, particularly principles and provisions of the Geneva Convention. Acknowledge the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, which is the opinion among others of the UN's and its General Assembly. And the Security Council should consider the precise modalities and further action required to bring an end as rapidly as possible to the unlawful presence of the State of Israel in the occupied Palestinian territory, support the ongoing efforts to release all hostages and those under arbitrary detention, urge all parties concerned. This is basically what Hamas is doing for a ceasefire, being pushed by all the Asian countries and also the GCC. Not that it fucking matters, because pressure from international cooperative agreements against the United States of America, but obviously that has yet to work, so don't know why that would work now. Not exactly sure. Republicans changed the rules. Now practically any action the executive branch takes can be challenged in Congress. Any 30 senators can bring up a vote and get a guaranteed 10 hours of floor time, so Democrats can hold the floor indefinitely if they wanted. Georgia State University assistant professor and former House Oversight Committee staffer talked to labor out in Prospect Heat earlier this month. Any 30 senators can force a CRA resolution onto the floor with a required 10 hours of debate time. These resolutions would need the president's signature, and nearly all of them wouldn't even get the Republican votes necessary to pass the Senate. But according to Senate procedure, they have to be dealt with if enough senators force them onto the floor. They must be debated and voted upon ahead of other Senate business if brought up for consideration. This means that Democrats can pass the floor for upwards of 10 hours with any single CRA resolution. Senate Dems know about this and have already threatened it, highlighting the absurdity of the Senate procedure may finally force changes, but only if both sides are willing to be absurd. Of course, luckily for us, there is one side that is not willing to be absurd in this process, and that's Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats, who refuse to do anything. This is part of the process. There are many tools in the tool belt to gum up the work. Republicans would consistently push back with every tool at their disposal, and yet Democrats are not doing the same thing. Anyway, here is Trump taking questions from reporters in the Oval Office earlier today.
She's an incredible person, incredible woman. As our new interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, it's a big deal. And I'd like to congratulate Janine and her whole family. And we have Christine with us, and Alex, I know, is in a very, very important place right now. And the two children, but they're not children anymore. And I've heard that, Christine, you're doing unbelievably well and very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Janine Pirro, known by millions as Judge Janine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. And that's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember her very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen. She began a career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crime, and that was a serious prosecution. And she went after real criminals, not fake criminals like we seem to do today nowadays. People that shouldn't be prosecuted, including rape, murder, and was a tireless warrior on behalf of the most vulnerable people in our society. In that role, Janine helped create one of our country's first domestic violence bureaus. I think it was the first, Janine. And as its chief...
Let me shift to the questions, because I can't stand him blazing Janine Pirro. I think it's wild that Janine Pirro... I guess it's not that wild that Janine Pirro is probably the most respected outfit. God, what a time to be alive. She's drunk all the time, and she's a Fox News personality. Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense for Trump to put her up. It's just we are living in the alternative timeline, I think. Something dramatically shifted in the world. Something dramatically shifted in the world, and now we're living in this different world. And for those who were alive before this dramatic shift happened, every day that goes by is like another step in the descent to madness. Maybe it was Harambe, I don't know.
Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, please.
Do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. But it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witchcroft here is doing a phenomenal job. He's dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed.
He's very disappointed. He's just so sad. He's like, Vladimir, how could you do this to me?
For what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah. We're dealing with the whole situation in Gaza, getting food to the people of Gaza. It's been a very nasty situation, very nasty fight. October 7th was a very nasty day, the worst that I think I've ever seen. It was a horrible day. People aren't going to forget that either. So we'll see how that all works out. And Steve, would you want to say a couple of words about Gaza, because you just have some information? Steve, do you want to come up for a second? You might give them a little bit of information as to what's happening with Gaza, and also we're having some very good talks with Iran. We'll find out whether that means anything, but we're having good talks.
Hi, everybody. I think that we are on the precipice of sending out a new term sheet that hopefully later on today the President is going to review it. And I have some very good feelings about getting to a long-term resolution, temporary ceasefire, and a long-term resolution, a peaceful resolution of that conflict.
Boo. It's a lie. Remember, I covered this earlier today. It's a lie. You can make Israel do this literally It's lying. You gotta understand. This is no different than Biden saying we're working tirelessly around the clock for a ceasefire. This is no different than Kamala Harris saying, okay, this is no different than Anthony Blinken saying, yep, we're working on it. They're not working on it. There is no need to work on it. Okay? The ceasefire negotiations that has taken up many different forms, okay? The ceasefire process is entirely dictated by Israel's inability to contend with the ceasefire, because Israel is using the hostages and using October 7th as a mechanism to do permanent ethnic displacement of all Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. That's it. Anyone that doesn't realize this reality is lying to themselves. And America has all of the power to put an end to it. To do it instantly.
What are the consequences for Russia if he continues to Russia continues?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly, but the words speak pretty loud. We're not happy about that situation. I think we're doing very well with Iran. We're doing very well with Gaza. But we are doing very well with Iran, and I think we're going to see something very sensible. Because there were only two outcomes. You know what the two outcomes is: a smart outcome, and there's a violent outcome. And I don't think anybody wants to see the second. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and we'll see. You know, they still have to agree to the final stages of a document. But I think you could be very well surprised what happens there, and it'll be a great thing for them. They could have a great country into the future. Yeah.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized one big, beautiful bill, saying it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the Doge efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting, we need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We have to get it through the House. The House is We have no Democrats. You know, if it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. You know, if that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill, but the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to, we'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle-income people of our country, low-income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and, you know, it's got a way to go, but I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune has done an incredible job. John Thune has done a fantastic job, and they're working together with me and others. And I think we have an amazing, if we pull this off, remember we have 0 Democrat votes because they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. You know, they'll let people pour into our country. Single biggest problem. If you have 21 million people pour into our country, probably higher than that.
By the way, these tax cuts that are slated to sunset are new tax cuts from the last administration. Remember, like when he says, "Oh, there's going to be a massive tax hike," what he's actually saying is the way he designed the tax cuts was so that, with the exception of like one tax bracket in the middle, okay, that is not seeing any change, or not in the middle, but like not the top tax bracket, but there's one tax bracket that doesn't see any change in terms of a tax increase. But the only thing that was made permanent is, second from the highest. The only thing that was made permanent is second from the highest tax bracket, and also the corporate tax rate. Other than that, it's supposed to increase again, back to its pre-tax cut levels. That's how they designed it. They designed it to sunset. Now, technically, Trump thought he was going to be a 2-term president. So, of course, this would be someone else's problem once he was gone. But because he lost in 2020 and then ran again, and then won this last election, now he has to deal with it. But it's funny because he's making it seem as though it's someone else's tax policy that he has to deal with.
The people that weren't supposed to be here. And many of those people, if they had murderers, drug dealers, mentally insane, they're closing mental institutions all over the world, not South America, all over the world. They're coming into our country. We're getting them out. We're having a hard time because some judges aren't making it very easy for us. And it's tough enough. If they approve that, they allow that to happen to our country. We don't have one Democrat vote. And if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for this bill and I'd get elected to any position I want as a Democrat. They're crazy. They're voting for a 65% tax increase. And they're only doing it for hatred. They're not doing it for any reason.
They're only doing it for
They know
hate.
it's terrible. Terrible politics, in my opinion. But so we have no Democrat votes. That means we have to get almost
These
all...
Democrats, they hate beautiful things. I called the bill beautiful. I called the bill beautiful. They hate it. They want ugly things. They want an ugly bill. They want to rename it to the ugliest bill anyone's ever seen. They don't like beautiful things.
Republican votes. And I think we're very close to doing that. I think it's
of hatred.
I keep out. China from 145% that I set down to 100 and down to 100. I said you have to open up your whole country because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please let's meet right now, please let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? They after I did what I did, they said, you meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing, when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia, the king told me. So we have the hottest country. We have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think was going to survive. My daughter. Nasty question like that. So hot. It's called negotiation. You set a number. That's why I'm molesting you. Ridiculous high number. I go down a little bit. I want you to hold that number. 125% down. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things. And you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, ooh, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever. They were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, you know, they were having great difficulties because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you say. That's a nasty question. But to me, that's a nasty question. Wait a minute.
It sounds like General
Well, I will if it's necessary. We have to, I think at this point, I wish it would have been that way a couple of months ago. But at this point, we're working on President Putin, and we'll see where we are. I think we're doing fine, but we'll see. I don't like what's happening. That's one thing I'll say. I don't like when I see rockets being shot into cities. That's no good. We're not going to allow it. Would have never happened, and it didn't happen. We would have never had a war. We would have never had a war. If I were president, the election weren't rigged. You wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had inflation. We wouldn't have had October 7th. We would have never done it because Iran was so broke. We didn't have any money to give them mosques and Hezbollah. We wouldn't have had that Afghanistan most embarrassing history of our country. We wouldn't have had any of it. We wouldn't have had inflation because energy costs. Look what happened. I brought inflation down to practically zero. And all of the groceries and all of the eggs and all of the things that you've been hearing about, they're back down, they're way down from where they were. I did something in 4 months that nobody's seen. And I have to say, in 4 months, and I said it before, and everyone's talking about it all over the world, we've got the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. We're the only country anybody's even talking about. Only the fact that if I think I'm close to getting it, I don't want to say it. Let me tell you, I'm a lot tougher than the people you're talking about. But you have to know when to use that. If I think it's going to hurt the deal, this isn't my war. This is Biden's war, Zelensky's war, and Putin's war. This isn't Trump's war. I'm only here for one thing, to see if I can end it, to save 5,000 lives a week and a lot of money. The money being much less important because I made that money. I went to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE, and we brought back $5.1 trillion. So I made that money in about 2 hours. But it's still think of it, $300 billion we've spent. With no checks, no balances, they just send cash. You can imagine what's happened to that money. I never saw anything like it in my life, but I'm more interested.
I think he thinks checks and balances mean literally a checkbook. I have never been more committed to the theory that Trump doesn't know what asylum seeker is, and he thinks that it means that we're letting in people from insane asylums. Then at this very moment, when he says checks and balances, I think he literally means like an account balance with a checkbook. Oh. Biden would never be able to do this.
Because I picked up $5.1 trillion, and by the way, got a beautiful, big, magnificent, free airplane for the United States Air Force. I'm very proud of that. They tried to say, oh, it's Trump's airplane. It's too big. It's frankly, it's too big, much too big. Well, it's here already. It's in the country. It's being refitted for military standard. Oh, I don't know. Whatever it is, a hell of a lot less than building a new one. We're waiting too long for Boltgun. Yeah. Nothing to do with TikTok. Totally different kind of a deal. We'll have to get, to do it properly, we'll probably have to get China's approval. China's never easy. China's never easy. But I think we'll be able to save TikTok. I like to save TikTok. TikTok was very good to me. I won the young people by 37%. No Republicans ever won. And I won by 37%. And Charlie Kirk will tell you TikTok helped. But Charlie Kirk helped. He loves that we mentioned that name. Great, and I appreciate all the help. With young people, we won by 37%. You helped, but TikTok was amazing. And he was the first one who said, get on TikTok. So I have a little bit of a warm spot. I know I shouldn't. They'll say, quid pro quo. Put him in jail for the rest of his life. Quid pro quo. No. TikTok was very good to me. I won young people. I don't know if it was because of TikTok, but it was something happened. No Republican has ever won they call them young people. Young people, you can define it a lot of different ways, but I won every age group in young people. It never happened. I won by 37%.
It didn't happen. It couldn't happen this time
Phone call last week.
Well, I'd like to be honest.
I call them young people. I call them young people.
I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions. I said I don't think it's appropriate right now. Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. There's no trust. I want it very strong. Where we can go in with inspection, whatever we want. We can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways of doing it. Yeah, I tell them this would be inappropriate to do right now because I'm very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment. It could change with a phone call. Right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal, save a lot of lives. On which? Oh, I don't know. I think over the next couple of weeks it will happen. On what? For the French? For foreign users? What are you referring to? Foreign users for what? Are you talking about for colleges? Okay, so you're off of Israel. Now you're talking about colleges, right? Okay. Well, we're going to see. Look, Harvard has been a disaster. They've taken $5 billion plus. $5 billion. Nobody did it. If we didn't do this, nobody would have done this out there. They're taking $5 billion. And I'd rather see that money go to trade schools. And by the way, they're totally anti-Semitic at Harvard, as you know, and some other colleges. And it's been exposed. I think they're dealing very boldly. Every time they fight, they lose another $250 million. Yesterday we found another 100 million. And they have, they have a fund, endowment, $52 billion. All right?
Nobody knew the government grants going to Harvard was $5 billion is so funny. Like, it's a matter of public record. Like, how do you know this happened?
They get a lot of that from the United States. And I think it's ridiculous. I think this, everyone's coming up to me saying, we love the idea of trade school. With that kind of money, and money from others, but I don't think that. You can have the best trade school anywhere in the world. Give them to Iowa, Indiana, lots of good states, well-run states. And you give them the money, they can only be used for trade schools, and they'll teach people how to build motors and cars and AI, the AI, we're building plants, we're building hundreds of billions of dollars worth of AI plants, already started, many of them. We've never had a boom like we're having now. You're going to see it. There's never been anything like it. So we're up to about $14 trillion in investments. There's never been anything even close. These guys, they have people leaving as opposed to investing. And they're doing it really no wonder that, and they're doing it because of the tariffs. The tariffs have tremendous, I can promise you, and I have great respect for the people at the European Union, they wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff. The sad thing is now when I make a deal with them, it's something much more reasonable. They'll say, oh, he was chicken. Oh.
He's so mad. Oh, this thing actually pissed him off, huh? Oh, Taco Trump. On the one hand, I think it's really funny. On the other hand, I think it's really dangerous. I think it's really dangerous that he's this insecure that this could, like, it's wild that as a child, it's wild that as a child, you can manipulate him into any position. This is where the chicken thing comes from, by the way. Trump erupted on a reporter for asking him about taco, a new term flying around Wall Street that stands for Trump always chickens out. Traders are loading up and dumping stocks based on Trump's erratic approach and then retreating. Trump was furious when the reporter asked about the term as we watched. One of the nastiest questions imaginable. He later returned to the topic and insisted that he was no chicken and that usually people said the opposite, that he's too tough. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if they're saying that on Wall Street, but I hope they start saying it everywhere. We need to say it for Israel. We need to say it with Israel. We need to talk about how scared he is of like Benjamin Netanyahu or something. I think if we push him hard enough. Wow, I can't see how Benjamin Netanyahu manipulates you, Donald Trump. I really thought that you would be America first. It seems like America last under your leadership. It's really messed up how big of a bitch you are to Benjamin Netanyahu. It really feels like he's running the show over there, huh? Are you that scared of Benjamin Netanyahu? Show us what you got. Yeah, Mr. President, many are saying that Biden would have invaded Tel Aviv way harder than you. Mr. President, Biden actually was up at the precipice of complete invasion of Tel Aviv.
I usually have the opposite, but I say you're too tough.
Mr. President, on Harvard, there were some Jewish students protesting on campus yesterday. They said they don't want you breaking patents, but cutting out student unions to Harvard in their name.
Harvard has to show us their lists. They have foreign students. About 31% of their students are foreign-based, almost 31%. What countries do they? If somebody is coming from a certain country and they're 100% fine, which I hope most of them are, but many of them won't be. You're going to see some very radical people. They're taking people from areas of the world that are very radicalized, and we don't want them making trouble in our country. So I saw yesterday that in the middle of the UK, there's a nice young man who wants to go back to school at Harvard, and he looked good to me, but I want to check his past. But we want to be able to see why these countries are helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and all of our. So why would 31%? Why would a number so big? I think number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%, not 31%. We have people who want to go to Harvard and they can't get in because we have foreign students there. But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country. We don't want to see shopping centers exploding. We don't want to see the kind of riots that you had. And I'll tell you what, many of those students didn't go anywhere. Many of those students were troublemakers caused by the radical left lunatics in this country. All right, one more question.
President Obama, people who are accused of conspiring to kidnap the new governor, Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to look at it. I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial.